Hi, my name is Steven and welcome back to my channel, and today I'm going to be talking to you about personal accountability, how to develop it and how to use it. We are, each one of us, accountable for all the things that we do and don't do in our lives, and ultimately a large part of how our lives turned out in the end. This obviously pertains to normal everyday lives and the decisions and choices that we make within our lives. Not to say that there isn't natural disasters or things that are out of our control that also affect our lives, but we are ultimately responsible for the lives and choices that we've made up to this point. This kind of personal accountability has been really hard for me to understand and also live to the best of my ability, because oftentimes in the past and sometimes in the present, I've used others as a scapegoat for all my problems. But the fact is, more often than not, we do have the power to change things within our own lives and take accountability for it. We, at the end of the day, can't keep blaming others for our problems that we continuously have within our lives. The power of personal accountability takes the power back within our hands for us to deal with. And ideally, this can resolve all the problems in the present and also in the future as well. But if we do shy away from personal accountability, we might be sabotaging our lives in the present and in the future. And ultimately, it might be a persistent problem until you actually deal with it. This was my journey from a lack of personal accountability to someone who uses it to guide things throughout my life. So in today's video, I'm going to talk about my background, my guide to personal accountability, and my general thoughts. Before we start, be sure to like, subscribe, comment, share with your friends, hit that notification bell if you like this content. And here we go. So when I was growing up, I didn't really understand what personal accountability was or how to even utilize it. I routinely shrugged off responsibility and blamed others for the lack of my progress. And if there were any persistent problems in my life, I usually blamed someone else because of it. Suffice to say, during this time, I wasn't really happy in my life. And there wasn't much progress during this time towards my life goals. And this was heavily persistent during my teenage years and my early 20s. I recall that during this time, I just expected good things to happen to me without my personal involvement in it. A life that I wanted but didn't earn. It wasn't until my mid-20s when I started to delve into personal growth and development that I started to change. And it was during this time that I stumbled upon personal accountability, and my life changed ever since that. What I discovered was that there was a world of possibilities and I could have control over all of it. And that your life goals are only limited by yourself and how much you take action on it. Personal accountability taught me how to be serious and actually reach my life goals. And along the way, being the best version of yourself to others. Because ultimately, at the end of the day, you need to be personally invested in whatever you're doing to accomplish your life goals. So personal accountability for me has been one of the best ways that I was able to accomplish my life's goals. And with some tips and guidance, you'll be able to boost your personal accountability as well. So here are some of my tips on how to be more personally accountable. Number 1, be honest with yourself. The number one thing that you can do to cultivate more personal accountability is to be as honest as you can about yourself. This means that you have to be honest with yourself in every aspect of your life. Go through the list of things that you've been avoiding or lying to yourself on. This won't be easy and it will be a very hard exercise, but trust me, it's well worth it in the end. The truth breaks down barriers between facts and your self-defense mechanism protecting you. Because sometimes it's much more easier to avoid the negative feelings and emotions from something. But in reality, living with it and processing it will be better for you in the long run. Because what I've realized is that it can be truly freeing to be truly honest with yourself. I made the most strides in my life when I was honest with my own abilities and really assessed them for what they were. It was only then I was able to make a plan to better myself from where I was. In my teens and in my early 20s, I lied to myself consistently about what I can do and when I can do them. And there was a whole host of issues and failures that I was just plain ignoring. But ignoring those things never really got me any traction in life. So when I started on the journey of personal accountability and being honest with myself, my life truly opened up to me. So I would say that if you want more personal accountability, start by being honest with yourself. Reflect on your life and examine the experiences for any hidden truths that you might uncover, and shine a light into what you have been avoiding up until now. Number 2, know your limits. Another way you can cultivate more personal accountability is to know your limits, knowing what you can give out into the world. This means giving someone an accurate assessment of what you're willing to give to them. Things like making dinner dates on time, or if you tell someone you're going to complete something, then you actually follow through and do it. This means that people can count on you to be consistent. When we have personal accountability, we don't have unrealistic expectations or outlandish outcomes. We can deliver things to others that depend on us. Knowing my limits was another game changer for me in personal accountability. Just knowing the fact that I can deliver things without over-exaggeration was very helpful for others, so that I wasn't continuously over-promising and under-delivering. This meant that I had to accept certain things that just wasn't optimized or efficient, but ultimately more sustainable because I could actually get them done without overburdening myself. Because when you have high pressure and expectations, you can overpromise and underdeliver habitually. In a previous video, I did an in-depth look into knowing your limits, so check that out if you're interested. But at the end of the day, accountability means that we know ourselves well and we know what we could put out into the world. That means that things you do are consistent and reliable to others and yourself. Number 3, the buck stops with you. The biggest lesson I've learned about personal accountability is that at the end of the day, all of your life choices belong to you and you own it. No one else is ultimately responsible for how your life is going. This is a very powerful statement that I didn't really understand until a lot later in my life. It really means that if there's something that's less than ideal in your life, you have the power to change it. And if something bad happens consistently over time, then you are ultimately responsible for that. Because we do have the power to change our circumstances, sometimes a little bit, sometimes by a lot. And it's up to you to change those circumstances if at all possible if you're not satisfied. This doesn't mean that all bad things that happen to you is your fault, but if it consistently happens, then you might want to look inward for the solution. When I fully understood the ramification of this, it changed my life dramatically. This meant that for a large portion of my life, I was the problem and cause of it. And that by not being honest with myself and knowing my limits, I was exasperating the problem. This statement, when fully understood, really gave me the go-ahead and the power to change my life for the better. And it helped me to be more proactive about certain situations than reactive. And ultimately, it helped me to make more positive decisions for my life. I think that realizing that each one of us has the power to change our lives is not ingrained in most of us. Most people still look for directions and social cues from others for permission to change their own lives. But the key ultimately depends on you and how willing you are to go through that change. So to realize that you are in control of your life and you have the power to do anything that you want is paramount to change. So take a moment and realize we are more powerful than we think we are in how we shape our lives. And that at the end of the day, the buck stops with you. Number 4, complete personal goals. Completing various goals in your life supports personal accountability and strengthens it. And the converse is also true. The less personal goals you commit to and achieve, the weaker your personal accountability will get. This is because at the end of the day, we just can't lie to ourselves and get away with it. This is because when we have high trust in our ability and are confident in moving towards our personal goals and completing them, we are strengthening personal accountability. If we make personal goal promises to ourselves and then break them, we lose and weaken our personal accountability over time. And the longer this goes on, the more of a habit it becomes. Our trust in ourselves to complete things gets destroyed in the process. And ultimately, it's going to be harder and harder for you to recover from it, and it has to be worked very slowly. Thinking back in my life and some of the people that I knew, there were some people that paid lip service to their promises. They had outward goals that they want to achieve, but every time you talk to them, they never accomplished that goal, and they just push out the date farther and farther into the future. People who told me time and time again they were going to get this done, but never got it done. It was always some external factor or outside circumstance. It was never their fault. In the past, I did this myself, so I do know the negative consequences for not keeping promises to yourself. As I started to complete more and more personal goals, I gained personal accountability and I had more trust and confidence in myself. This was a positive feedback loop that also boosted and strengthened my personal accountability more and more. So I think it's really important for you to communicate your goals to yourself and follow through with them. Even if it's simple goals like making the bed and flossing. It gets you in the right mindset so you can ultimately accomplish larger and larger goals in the future. And the long-term consequences of this is boosted personal accountability. And number 5, create a network of support. Lastly, I think we all need people in our lives to hold us accountable for all the things that we need to do. Because social feedback loops can really help boost our personal accountability. Accountability buddies for self-care, exercising, or finance can be really helpful in life. Because having similar goals can help you achieve those goals much quicker. For most of my life, I really didn't have a strong support network around me. So no one really held me personally accountable for my own life besides myself. But as I got more mature and made friends with people that believed in personal growth and development, my personal accountability from those people rose. And they held my feet to the fire so that I would ultimately become a better person. Every time we met up, we compared goals and see how we can do better each and every time. This ultimately gave me a powerful incentive to continue the bettering process. So as you grow more towards personal accountability, find people that are aligned with your goals. So form that social network to get a leg up on personal accountability. So here are my thoughts on personal accountability. I think that developing and having personal accountability is one of the hardest skills to develop. There is just no way to sugarcoat it. To cultivate good personal accountability, it is a very rough ride. Being radically honest with yourself and facing your past mistakes is not easy. And also realizing how to course correct on the mistakes in your life is very tough. But I do believe personal accountability is worth it in the long run because it has such a huge impact on your long-term life. Because the impact is not just you, but the people around you as well. And I truly believe that it'll make you and others around you happier as a result. Knowing that you can change your life in this manner is very empowering. And it gave me a huge boost in my confidence and my ability to just get things done. So those are my tips on personal accountability. As we go through life, we are responsible for what happens to us and ultimately how we respond to it. The power is in our hands to take control and personal accountability, and ultimately create the life that we want for ourselves. With greater personal accountability, we can complete goals, commitments to ourselves and others. Without it, we're more disappointed in our lives, we blame others for our problems, and ultimately we never learn the lessons from our past. So I hope you're able to take away a few tips on how to better your own personal accountability. So thank you for watching. Please leave me a comment down below on what are your thoughts on personal accountability and how has that helped you to solve issues in your life. And I'll see you next time.